And I look back, I look at our quarry parties now, and I think there it is. It's just the same. It's all happening again, you know.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's the thing. So I grew up, on this wonderful island, going to quarry and bunker
yeah,
parties, which, in the UK, we've got a terrible binge drinking culture.
yeah.
Whereas Alderney, don't get me wrong, it has a
No,
lot of alcohol put in it,
yeah.
but it seems like the parties here are very much more
Oh, yeah,
communal, organic.
yeah.
I mean, what was it like, when you first came here? Were there bunker parties? Were there
No,
quarry parties? What
there
did you get
were
up
no
to?
quarry parties. There were no bunker parties. There were parties, believe me, and sometimes they were in the bunkers, but they'd be small. But there were no big parties like that really organised. But Alderney Week provided that in a way, and there was no restriction on what people did in Alderney. You just did it really, and so I remember lovely parties at Bray on Bray Common on Bray Beach. I remember going to when I first came. I was in my 20s, don't forget. So I didn't mind going to a party occasionally. And Longy and on Soy, we've got the best beaches ever.
It's wonderful, isn't it? And
Oh,
this, I don't quite know whether people really appreciate this. Now, I
yeah,
mean, I was talking to you last night about Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth,
mm,
and of course, when she came to visit Alderney,
yeah,
and of course, you were invited on to
yes,
to her boat
yeah,
to come and
yeah,
have her drinks
yes.
with the Queen. What was that like? Kind of, do you think she had any idea that Alderney even
Well,
existed?
it's
Does
funny
that sound
because I know
bad?
that Prince Philip was fascinated because when I was invited on board, as you know, I got on board and I had arrived late because of a slight problem at the hotel, and that I'm afraid came first,
That's Alderney time, though, isn't it?
isn't it? Alderney time, and I was put on a barge and taken out with my wife, and we were 10 minutes late. And to my horror, when I got to the what was the name of their lovely ship? The
Oh yes, the Britannia was it? Oh,
Britannia,
yeah.
yeah, Britannia. Um, I looked up the gangplank, and there, to my absolute horror, at the top, waiting and standing, was Prince Philip and the Queen.
Oh God.
And I walked up, and I got to the top, and I said, "Your Majesty, I'm so sorry that we're late. I'm afraid I run a hotel, and it's one of those things." He said, "You are late." He said, "And there's no excuses." He said, "You're late." And that was Prince, and the Queen looked at him to say, "For goodness sake, keep it quiet. Now let's go on. Let's go down to the stateroom." So my wife and I followed them down to the stateroom. When we got down below, there were 80 to 100 local of people and states members and a lot of local people there, uh, all hoping to meet her, and on the board this magnificent vessel. And as we were walking down, the Queen said, "What do you do apart from your states work, for your hotel work?" And I said, "I'm a states member." She said, "Oh, that's the local council." And I said, "It is, yes." Um, "Oh, it's rather like Jersey and Guernsey then, is it?" I said, "Yes, it is, Your Majesty." And and then he said, "What sort of committees do you have?" And I said, "I run one called um, the La Beauté Naturelle." And then Prince Philip said, "What's that?" He said, "It sounds like a beauty contest." And so, with that, just at that moment, we were interrupted by an aide who came over and he said, "Your Majesty, the Winston Churchill and the Miller are just coming by with young cadets up on the mast, and they are w- waiting, hoping that they will see you." So she said, "Please excuse me, I must go." And so I said, "Of course, Your Majesty." And I walked back into the crowd, and we just sat and talked and walked around and chatted. And I was really at the very back. 10 minutes later, Her Majesty walks back into the stateroom, and she looks around. She walks through the crowd, makes her way back to me and my wife, and said, "Now, where were we? You were talking about the committees you were on."
Wow.
I was so
She's a sharp one, isn't
unbelievably
she?
impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And this is the thing. So Alderney's no stranger to famous people,
No,
royalty,
yeah,
celebrities. I mean, you must have seen so many people come to this island.
very much so. And
And
when you greet, particularly if you're a states member, I think I met the Queen 3 times one day.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Well, this is it, Ray. So obviously, that we could go on for hours and hours and
Oh,
hours
we
talking
could.
about this wonderful island. But
Yeah.
what is it you hope for Alderney, in the next decade? And I mean, it's 2020 now, Ray.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting
Yep.
decade for all of us. What do you hope for Alderney?
Well, I'm getting on a bit now, but I've still got my hopes and desires, and they're as keen and honest as as ever about this island. The only reason I'm still here after all those years is because I love it to bits, and I do. I love living here, and we've had a wonderful, wonderful life here. It is unfortunate, but Alderney has always had ups and downs, and I remember the downs very much so when we had hotel bookings and no airline. That was way back in, I think, 19, I don't know what it was, 60 something, or 80 it was it, I don't know. About 81 maybe. And then Drew McQueen went out there and they found an airline to suit this island. And not just this island, it completely served all of the islands.
Hmm.